The silence beneath the granite vault.
It began with a rumor once so old, so deeply buried in regional folklore, that few believed it held any truth. Beneath the granite cliffs of a remote northern province, villagers spoke of an ancient vault carved directly into the mountain's core.
Not a treasury. Not a burial chamber. Something older, stranger, and bound to the earliest days of European finance. A place where silence was said to have weight, and where the past refused to sleep. To understand why this forgotten vault mattered, we must return to a time before kingdoms rose in stone and gold. In those early days, trade relied not on metal but on trust agreements whispered at firesides, promises etched into memory rather than parchment. As settlements grew into cities, trust became harder to preserve. Disputes multiplied. Wealth accumulated. And so the first vaults emerged not merely to protect goods, but to protect order. The first reveal begins with the discovery that revived the rumor. Explorers charting the old mountain passes for a modern infrastructure project detected hollow space beneath the granite cliffs. The anomaly was too large to be natural. Engineers drilled cautiously and confirmed what the villagers had spoken of for centuries: a structured cavity, symmetrical, reinforced, and sealed with materials unknown to the region's early builders. Then came the second beat. When archaeologists descended into the chamber, they found inscriptions older than any regional kingdom. Symbols resembling early trade glyphs covered the walls, records of exchanges, debts, promises, and disputes. It was a proto-ledger etched into stone, predating both organized banking and established legal systems. Whoever built the vault had intended not only to preserve wealth, but to define the rules by which wealth could shape society. But something was wrong. The chamber was incomplete. A massive sealed door, granite fused with an alloy far ahead of its era, blocked passage into a deeper, darker section of the vault. Its mechanisms bore no resemblance to any known technology from the period. And carved across its surface was a single inscription, translated roughly as, "Until silence is broken, nothing may pass." Whispers spread quickly. What lay behind the sealed door? Why had the builders hidden it so deliberately? And why had they created a vault whose access depended on something as intangible as silence itself? The answers would reveal a story untouched for millennia, one powerful enough to challenge everything we thought we knew about the origins of European finance. The discovery of the sealed granite door ignited a wave of fascination across the region. Scholars, linguists, and engineers arrived with theories that tangled around each other like vines. Some claimed the vault was ceremonial, others argued it was a prototype for systems that would one day become banking law. But as they studied the chamber more closely, a far more unsettling truth began to emerge. The vault wasn't simply ancient. It was intentional, built with precision far beyond what the era should have allowed. The reveal deepened when researchers examining the stone glyphs noticed something extraordinary. The inscriptions did not merely document exchanges, they recorded disputes resolved through silence. Whole sections described agreements that required both parties to refrain from speaking of the terms, agreements enforced not by rulers, but by custom. Silence, in this early society, was a binding force. Breaking it carried consequences severe enough to leave no survivors to speak of them. This was no ordinary ledger. It was a code of conduct designed to maintain order in a world where spoken promises held the power of law. As archaeologists mapped the vault's interior, the conflict began to take shape. Engineers attempting to analyze the sealed door could not determine how it had been constructed. The alloy embedded within the granite was unlike any metal smelted in the region for another 1,000 years. Even the tools found near the entrance, chipped stone, hardened wood, rudimentary blades, offered no clue. The vault's builders possessed knowledge their era should not have held, or had acquired it from a source no historian could confirm. The mystery left teams divided. Some insisted the construction must be younger than it appeared. Others argued that history had simply lost the memory of a civilization more advanced than previously understood. Tension rose when a small team discovered a narrow crack along the right edge of the sealed door, barely perceptible, yet unmistakably shaped by human hands. After scanning the fissure, they realized the door's inner mechanisms were not locked in place, they were waiting for activation. But activation by what? No amount of force, heat, or leverage seemed to matter. The machinery refused to respond.
Meanwhile, researchers analyzing the acoustics of the chamber uncovered something even stranger. The room absorbed sound in unnatural ways.
Whispers vanished instantly. Footsteps softened into nothing. Instruments used to measure echoes detected anomalies that defied geological explanation.
The vault seemed designed to swallow sound, leaving only the impression of silence so absolute it felt engineered. And carved into the deepest set of glyphs was a chilling phrase repeated several times: "Silence keeps the record.
Silence guards the debt."
The meaning was unclear, but the implications grew darker each day. Outside the vault, the world reacted as rumors spread. Journalists speculated about hidden treasure.
Conspiracy theorists claimed the vault held proof of forgotten civilizations.
Local residents worried the excavation would disturb something meant to remain buried.
Officials urged caution, concerned that escalating attention could draw unwanted intervention from neighboring states eager to claim the discovery for themselves.
Inside the chamber, the team faced a growing dilemma. The sealed door was more than a historical curiosity. It was a barrier deliberately crafted to withstand centuries, perhaps millennia. Whatever lay behind it had been protected by a rule etched into stone: nothing may pass until silence is broken.
But what did it mean to break silence? Was it metaphor? Ceremony? A code? A warning?
As debates raged within the dim light of the vault, one fact became impossible to ignore: the door was not merely closed.
It was waiting. The vault waited, but the world above it no longer did. Pressure mounted from every direction as the mystery thickened.
International scholars petitioned for access.
Rival governments offered funding disguised as influence.
Even private collectors arrived, eager to claim fragments of a discovery older than written law itself. What began as a quiet archaeological study had become a geopolitical spectacle.
And still, the sealed granite door refused to yield even a hint of what lay behind it. Inside the chamber, the conflict reached a breaking point.
Engineers argued that the vault's mechanisms must respond to physical triggers long since eroded.
Linguists insisted the key lay within the glyphs' ancient contracts built around silence, symbolism, and ritual.
Historians warned that the vault's purpose might not have been preservation at all, but containment.
Each faction defended its theory with growing intensity, their disagreements echoing, then disappearing, into the chamber's sound-swallowing void.
But the build-up accelerated when a linguist named Dr. Lira uncovered a pattern hidden in the inscriptions. The oldest glyphs did not merely describe agreements bound by silence, they referenced something deeper: a debt that could not be spoken of, only carried.
A debt older than kings, older than stone, recorded in symbols that resembled early astronomical diagrams. The implication was staggering.
The builders of the vault had tied their economy not just to trade or territory, but to a cosmology, a belief that certain truths, once voiced, could alter the order of the world. Her discovery ignited a wave of fear inside the team.
If the vault's opening required breaking a silence preserved for millennia, what would that release? Knowledge? Power? Chaos?
Some demanded the excavation be halted immediately. Others argued that history could not remain buried, no matter the risk. The debate grew so fierce that security was doubled to prevent outside interference or internal sabotage. Then came the event that shifted everything. During a routine scan, sensors detected the faintest vibration emanating from behind the sealed door. Not movement, rhythm. A pulse. It repeated every 37 seconds with mechanical precision, as if some ancient device, buried in darkness, still ticked through its purpose. The discovery froze the entire team.
No mechanism forged in that era should still function. No structure of stone and alloy should survive with such regularity. The vault was not dead. It was awake. And the pulse grew stronger when researchers spoke aloud near the door. Their voices did not echo, they vanished, absorbed instantly, but the pulse quickened after every syllable. At first, the team believed it was coincidence. But after several controlled tests, the pattern became undeniable: sound fed the vault's mechanism. Silence kept it dormant.
The meaning of the inscription, "Until silence is broken, nothing may pass," shifted in their minds. Perhaps it was not a warning against speaking, but a requirement to speak.
A demand that a specific sound, phrase, or resonance awaken the mechanism slumbering behind the stone. The conflict escalated when officials from the capital arrived unannounced. They feared the vault's technology, or whatever lay inside, might offer strategic advantages. Without consulting the researchers, they ordered preparations for forced entry. Explosives, cutting tools, and seismic drills were brought into the chamber. The scientists protested that any such attempt could trigger collapse or destroy irreplaceable artifacts. Their protests were ignored. Tension surged toward its peak the night before the forced breach. As the team gathered for one last private attempt to understand the mechanism, Dr. Lyra noticed something extraordinary. The glyphs directly facing the sealed door differed from the others. They were smoother, newer, almost as if they had been refreshed or recarved long after the vault's original construction. These inscriptions depicted a single figure, mouth open, arms extended, standing before the sealed chamber. Not silent. Speaking. The realization rippled through the group in stunned silence. The vault's builders had not feared the breaking of silence. They required it. And just as the team prepared to test their theory, a tremor rolled through the chamber, followed by a single, unmistakable sound from behind the granite door. A sound that did not belong to stone. A sound that suggested something on the other side had heard them. The tremor silenced everyone in the chamber. Dust drifted from the vaulted ceiling. Instruments flickered. And then came the sound, soft, deliberate, unmistakably rhythmic, as if something behind the granite door had awakened from an age-long rest. The researchers froze, each one hearing the same impossible truth: the vault was responding. The climax unfolded in a blur of fear and resolve. Officials rushed forward, ordering guards to prepare the forced breach immediately. But the research team stood their ground, blocking the workers and refusing to let explosives near the ancient mechanism. Dr. Lyra stepped toward the glyphs with trembling certainty. She understood now that silence had never been the barrier, it had been the lock. And the pulse behind the door was the key waiting for a voice. With the entire chamber watching, she spoke the only phrase repeated across the fresher inscriptions. Her voice was steady, though the air felt unnaturally heavy around her. The moment the final syllable passed her lips, the vault answered. The pulse quickened into a steady hum. Symbols along the door glowed faintly, as though awakened by recognition. Stone shifted. Metal groaned. The seals that had endured thousands of years began to disengage. Then the chamber shook again, this time not from the vault, but from the panic it unleashed. Officials shouted to abort the process. Guards raised weapons, unsure whether to protect the door or destroy it. Researchers backed away as fragments of stone clicked into place, forming patterns no one alive could decipher. The vault was opening itself, responding not to force, but to the return of a ritual that time had nearly erased. As the final lock disengaged, the massive granite door slid inward, releasing a rush of cold air that extinguished every torch in the chamber. Darkness consumed the room for a single, breathless moment. Then, from within the newly revealed space, a faint golden light began to bloom, soft at first, then expanding like dawn rising inside the mountain. When the illumination settled, the researchers stepped forward and saw what the builders had preserved. Not treasure. Not weapons. Not records of debt or ancient kings. It was a chamber of pure silence, sculpted to perfection, resonating not with sound but with intention. At its center stood an object shaped like a ledger but carved entirely from light-reflecting crystal. Its surface held no writing, only facets that shimmered with patterns as eyes moved across them. The artifact was not a record of transactions. It was a record of truth. An instrument designed to reveal the foundations upon which early societies built trust, obligation, and balance. And around it, etched into the chamber walls, were sequences of symbols describing the first principles of equitable exchange, the origin code of value itself. Concepts older than law, older than coinage, older than any economic structure that survived to the present. The vault had not protected wealth. It had protected wisdom. The resolution unfolded in the weeks that followed. Scholars studied the chamber under strict international oversight. Officials abandoned any hope of exploitation, realizing the vault held no advantage to weaponize, only knowledge to understand. The discovery challenged long-held assumptions about the birth of finance in Europe. It demonstrated that before kingdoms, banks, or markets, there had been an agreement deeper than transaction, a commitment to balance, preserved through silence until humanity was ready to hear it. And though the artifact was eventually moved to a secure research institute, the vault itself remained open, no longer a prison of secrecy, but a monument to the origins of trust. What happened in that mountain reminds us of something easy to forget in an age of noise and competition, that the systems guiding our world began with simple principles meant to bind communities, not divide them. Principles lost to time, yet waiting patiently beneath the granite for silence to break.